Welcome back to Robert's Reviews. Today, we're going to be continuing our... Why is this doing the thing? We're going to be continuing our Marvel Marathon with Avengers, Age of Ultron. Avengers Age of Ultron was made in 2015 and is written and directed by Joss Whedon. I said it right the first time. I'm so good at my job. Alright, this movie was a massive disappointment to me. I'm going to just preface this video with that. Very massive disappointment to me. And honestly, this could have been the biggest failure of the MCU. This could have turned the tides on whether or not we were going to make it through to Endgame or if it was just going to be canceled. Honestly, this was the movie that could have ruined it all, in my opinion. Excuse me. Ugh. So, the idea of this movie. Most of you that are watching this review have probably already seen it, so good for you. I'm sorry that you had to watch all of that. Let's jump right into what it actually is about. Essentially, everything's fine, and they are, researching Loki's scepter, which they find, at the end of Avengers Endgame, and they realize that it's a power stone. They have, I don't know if it's a power stone. They have a stone. It's an Infinity Stone. And so Iron Man, Tony Stark, is like, ooh, yes, and then he wants to use that, and of course Bruce Banner is like, I'll help, and then basically what happens is they create this super genius artificial intelligence robot that threatens to destroy the world with his knowledge, and he basically destroys an entire city and kills probably thousands of people, if we're honest. It never really tells us a total death count at the end of the movie, but it's probably in the thousands, I think. I don't think it's in the millions. Sokovia's not that big. But let's get into why I think it's a disaster of a film. Number one, so loose. There wasn't a strict timeline here. It felt really weird because we went from Avengers, which was really, really cool, really fun, new, fresh, exciting, had a really cool villain, and then we went to something that was, I understand that it was cool because it was created by Tony Stark, and we see that Tony Stark doesn't really always act in the best interest of the people, but that doesn't really matter, if we're honest here. I mean, it could have just so easily just stopped it from happening than anything else. And then he goes on to create Vision, who's a good guy. And it's like, okay, well, are they happy with him now? Are they not happy with him now? And then the whole end scene, the battle for Sokovia, I think it is the actual technical term, that happens in the sky, was really cool, really well done. Special effects for all the Marvel movies, I think, are fantastic. But how we got there just felt really dumb. And honestly, I really didn't enjoy the timeline of the film. I really, really didn't. And I think this is the one that we have the Hulkbuster costume and everything like that, Hulkbuster uniform and all that stuff. Which, don't get me wrong, all really cool stuff, really cool fights. It's unimportant. It's really unimportant. And they could have made a whole movie about that instead of just making it a small part. That was a cool part. And they were like, 5 minutes. And I'm not necessarily saying that every Marvel movie or every movie in general has to be plastered with action, because it doesn't. I genuinely believe that movies that don't have action are totally fine. There are people that disagree with me, that are action nerds. That's totally fine. I like a good movie that has, good dramatic plots. And in this one, we get to see a lot more of Hawkeye. I love Hawkeye. Hawkeye is one of my favorite characters now because of this movie. But it's just so boring. It's so boring for almost the entire film. And then towards the end, we finally get some really cool stuff that has to do with not only just a fight between the Avengers and all that stuff, and a really cool robot, but we see a lot of drama where we get to see Scarlet Witch and Hawkeye really connect on a deeper level and talk her into being an Avenger. And it's just not a very well written or directed movie, in my opinion, which is awful to say because Joss Whedon is amazing. I mean, look at Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is amazing. I have watched all 5 first seasons. I have 2 more seasons left to go. It's going to be a month or two before I actually get to season 6 or 7. But, it's really solid. And he made the first Avengers film, which is also very solid. But I don't know why this had to happen. I understand we could have. I think Ultron himself could have been presented in a better way. I understand that it was needed and necessary for the plot. But the reason that I say this could have destroyed the MCU is simple. This movie could have been worse to the point where people wouldn't want to watch it. It could have bombed. And it's not a very great movie. It really isn't. But it was good enough, and it made more characters, and it killed off a couple characters, and it really gave us some more plot points that really did lead us into Captain America: Civil War, which, in my opinion, was another disappointment. We'll get to that. It's not as much as a disappointment as this movie was, though. When I watch an Avengers movie, I'm really looking for the unity of characters and a really cool villain that I can root for, as well as the Avengers, right? Because, like, think of Thanos. Like, you're like, wow, I hate Thanos. I want him to die. The Avengers should kill him. But a tiny part of my brain is like, but he's kind of right in the fact that, like, we need to solve the population issue somehow. Obviously, killing half of humanity is the wrong way to go about it. But, you know, he has morals that make sense. Whereas Ultron is just crazy because he has so much knowledge. And it's like, no. I don't believe it for a second. I mean, he's basically a superpowered Jarvis. Which is fine, because we actually do get a superpowered Jarvis. And superpowered Jarvis is good. Vision. I'm talking about Vision. I'm going to crack my back again. But I'm going to talk briefly about the actors and the characters, particularly the new ones. I'm not going to talk about any of the old ones because there's no reason to. I've already talked about them like 3 times already on this channel. If you'd like me to go into specifics about what I thought about each individual character in this particular movie, drop a comment down below and I will upload a video, or I can talk about it in the comments. I don't mind. I can write a quick essay. Obviously, this film stars Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Mark Ruffalo, Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson, Jeremy Renner, and Samuel L. Jackson. Those are just the obviouses. Those are the obvious. I guess Samuel L. Jackson isn't necessarily obvious because he, like, dies in the second Captain America movie, and then he kind of comes back, and you don't really know what's going to happen. But still, he's kind of an Avenger, so we expect him to come back. I had no problems with any performance. If anything, I think I really enjoyed the performances, particularly of Jeremy Renner. Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans had this really cool back and forth. Mark Ruffalo gets to explore a lot more of the doctor side of his character, which I really enjoyed. Thor himself is always meh. Still kind of meh in this one, if I'm honest with you. Scarlett Johansson's beautiful, and she was pregnant during this filming, so she had a bunch of stunt doubles. So we really don't even know exactly what was her and what wasn't her, because apparently her stunt doubles were so persuasive. Let's talk about just three new actors that came into this one that matter over the course of this film and the future films. Obviously, Ultron, who is portrayed by James Spader. James Spader is freaking hilarious. I don't care what anybody says. I think he's one of the most underrated characters in The Office ever. People were upset and they don't like him in The Office because he comes in and he immediately replaces Steve Carell's character, Michael Scott, which is fine. I understood that Michael Scott had to leave, but I'm still upset about it. I'm still a little salty. However, I can't really complain about it because James Spader, as Robert California in that show, was amazing. It was hilarious. I enjoyed it. I had a great time watching and viewing that performance. And this is no different. I think he did really well with this. That being said, we don't get to see him because he's a robot, but his voice just has this like gravelly, like monotone kind of sound with a lot of consonants, and it really is a perfect match. But it is ultimately voice acting with a little bit of maybe face tracking in that, but not really much that he can really lend besides his voice, which was phenomenal. Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch is a character that for me is very up and down. Whereas, like, you know, I liked her in Age of Ultron. I didn't like her in Civil War. I liked her in Infinity War. And then I didn't like her in Endgame. It's really like... but we have a new show with her and Paul Bettany, who plays Vision. We'll talk about him in a second. And they have a show coming out called WandaVision. And I'm really excited for it because I love the MCU, and I'm really excited to see what they do with these characters. That being said, the fact that they fall in love is ridiculous. I will get to that when we talk about Civil War. That was fast. I'm very sorry if you didn't catch that. I'll slow down a little bit. We're going to talk about their relationship in Civil War because I think it's ridiculous. I think it's in Civil War that we talk about that. Maybe it's Infinity War. I don't remember. There's whatever movie that comes up. I know I don't remember what it is, but we will talk about that relationship because that relationship's dumb in my opinion. Anyway, Paul Bettany as Vision is great. I almost wish we got to see James D'Arcy come back as reprising his role as Jarvis, Edwin Jarvis, from Agent Carter. But we don't, and it's very sad. That being said, Paul Bettany's great. And honestly, the two they sound very similar and they act very similar with their mannerisms. It's mainly a voice acting thing from the first 3 Iron Mans, and then he shows up, and now he's actually in the show. He's in the movies. Vision is a character that I think a lot of people really enjoy, but I don't particularly enjoy. And the main reason for that is just I don't really fully understand him. I understand that he is, the Mind Stone or whatever, and so he can think and has all knowing, but his powers are never described to us in the MCU. We just know that he's like a god almost, and that's really cool. And he can lift Thor's hammer. That's really cool and stuff. But what is he? What exactly are his powers? What are the limits of his powers? Is what I'm really getting at. Is what can he not do? Because then he fights Thanos and dies, and that's so confusing to me. Because he could have just flown away or something. I just don't understand. But whatever. I'm done talking about that. All right. With that, this movie gets a D+. It's not my favorite movie at all. I honestly don't enjoy it. It's not one that I come back to. I only watched this movie 3 or 4 times, which may seem like a lot to you guys, but I've watched, other movies like The Avengers, and I've watched Spider-Man Homecoming at least 100 times, I think literally. So this isn't a lot of times for me. And I did not enjoy this film, almost at all. But that'll do it for me today. Make sure you subscribe for more, okay? Because we need more subscribers. We need to hit that subscribe button. Watch all my videos. Binge watch them. Listen to them on your car ride, but put your phone on the chair or something because I don't want you to die watching it. You can listen to it like a podcast. Hear my ASMR voice. But make sure you subscribe, like for more, comment down below what you want me to review next, and join the Facebook group in the description box below. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Keep watching movies and films and stay educated.